The first one is self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is basically self-confidence. Someone mentioned confidence earlier on, right? It's self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is your belief about your abilities, right? It's that sense of, I've got this. I know we'll make it work. Yeah, no, pick me. And you lift your hand up there and you say, yes, I can do it. Okay? I've said to you before that in the workplace, it's been found who's more confident at work, men or women? Okay, that's true, on average. It's been found that men tend to overestimate their abilities, women tend to underestimate their abilities. So if your wife comes to you and says, I don't think I can do it, I don't think I can do it, take it with a pinch of salt. And if your husband comes to you and says, I've got this, I can do it, take it with a pinch of salt. Okay? We've seen it happen. You'll find that a woman in the workplace will be sitting there and she'll look and she'll say, oh, but there's a vacancy here. And they're saying that they need 5 years experience for it. Hey, but I've only got 4.5 years. I hope they keep this job open, this vacancy open for the next 6 months, right? Whereas guys will look at the same vacancy and what do they say? Hey, you know what, we were seconded for 3 months last year. Hey, yeah, I know, I've got this. And sometimes they apply for the job and they get it, okay? So self-efficacy is crucial. It's crucial. It actually is a predictor of whether people will be successful or not in entrepreneurship, right? Even in terms of the sexual intimacy in a relationship. I don't know why I keep going there. The sexual intimacy. Confidence is very key. Ladies, please remember that, hey? For guys, confidence is very key. It affects all sorts of things, nah? Right? So you have to master the art of how can I make sure that I keep boosting this guy's confidence. I'm seeing people starting to nudge each other, or I'm seeing like stuff happening. And guys, remember that about your wives, right? What are you saying to her that makes her feel confident about her body, about how she looks? It's gone very quiet in the room. I'm obviously scratching where it's itching. Okay. Self-efficacy. So this is a sense of confidence in one's own competence. Now remember, strength overused becomes a weakness, right? So you don't want to be overconfident, right? But you want to be confident. This is to do with self-validation. Self-validation. It's where I don't need someone else to tell me I'm brilliant. I've already validated myself. And so when the person comes and says, we thought you were great, they're reinforcing how I already see myself. Does that make sense? Yet so many people go to work every day with a blank slate. What do I mean by a blank slate? Where you've got no opinion of yourself. You know those people, and then they've got a new hairstyle, and they're hoping someone will just validate them and say, you look lovely. And no one says anything, and then they go home and change their hairstyle. All right? They're looking for external validation. That's what a kid needs, eh? A little child. What are my kids always saying, especially in holidays when we're always around? What are they always saying? Daddy, 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 who's better? And you're not allowed to say we're all the same. Who's better at soccer? You're not allowed to say we're all the same. Who's better? What are they looking for? They're looking for validation from the parent. But at a certain point, they internalize that and then they become confident as adults. Now, there are a lot of adults who didn't get that validation. So what are they doing? They're looking for it in the wrong place. Okay? So self-efficacy is crucial. It's confidence in the face of life's challenges. Right? That sense of, I will handle it. Remember that old rap back in the days? Because I can handle it. Taking you back to 1990, okay? It's that sense of, I've got this. Now, we're going to deal with esteem builders. So for each pillar, I'm going to give you a definition, then I'll give you the esteem builder. In other words, what can you do practically to build esteem in your spouse in that particular construct, okay? And then there's the homework. So, when you verbally acknowledge my capability and achievement, it boosts my sense of confidence, very practically. And as I take you through this, please just note or mark in your booklets what you need to work on, what you're not doing enough, okay? The second one, when you ask my opinion on difficult matters, it builds my esteem in terms of this. So if you keep things from your spouse and you're not asking their opinion on difficult matters, do you know what they end up feeling? They end up feeling like they can't contribute. I've had conversations with my wife where I'll ask her something and then she'll give me her advice, and then I take her advice And I can see she feels like boosted. And she actually shows me, I can see it's a visual. She's like, like, yeah, my pressure used that idea that she said, I'm like, you seem boosted? Yeah, it's nice to know I've got influence. That's what we're talking about, right? But many times, your spouse can feel they've got no say in certain aspects of your life. And you've got an opportunity to actually let them into your world so that they feel like you can contribute. When you ask me to do things that are too difficult for you, hey, I'm struggling with this, can you do this? And for guys, what boosts them is often when their spouse just comes, when your wife comes and just says, can you open this bottle for me? How many of you feel good when that happens? And she's there, can you open this jar for me? And she's been struggling with it, and she's probably done 90% of it, and then you just go. I know for me it does something to me. And I know my wife walks off knowing that it's done something for me. She's like, at least he feels boosted. All right? When you demonstrate that you trust my ability and my judgment calls, the last thing you want to do is you send your spouse to do something for you, and every 5 minutes you're checking, have you done it? Is it okay? So what did you tell them? No, I want to hear exactly, what did you say? That's not helping with their self-esteem. And I know some of you are like that, all right? When you don't micromanage me, okay, one of the things I don't like is when people hover. You know, and there are a lot of people in the workplace who don't like that. Do you like it when your boss gives you work to do, and then they hover? You know what we call they come behind you and they're looking over your head like this, okay? My wife knows I don't like it when, let's say there's a form I have to fill out. Let's say there's a delivery or something, and I'm filling it out and she's like staring there, like gawking. I'm like, just checking, okay? But sometimes we micromanage our spouses, and then they don't feel confident. They feel like, maybe you don't trust me in this. Does that make sense? Okay. When you don't hover after having made a request, there's that point. When you ask me once and trust that I can and will do it. Now I know for some of you, when it comes to functional trust is I'll do what I said I'll do. Trust has been eroded there. And that's why your spouse always has to have a plan B. You know, they ask you to do something, but then they've already planned and carved out time during the day where they'll do it in case you haven't done it. That's not great in a marriage, is it? All right? So you want to be in a space where your spouse can trust you. But trust is a choice. Trust is a choice. So you also want to be in a space where you're communicating to your spouse that you trust them. Often I'll ask Trace to do something for me, and then she'll say, do you want it like this, like this? And I'll just say, my love, I trust you. I trust your wisdom. I know you'll do a great job, just go for it. You don't have to tell me beforehand exactly how you're going to go about it. I trust you. The thing about trust is it has to be communicated. It's powerful when you communicate it. Those of you in the workplace, when you delegate work to someone, what you do, don't just give them like you don't care about the work. That's abdication. What do? You say, you know what, this is so important for me, and I'm looking for someone who I know will do a great job on it. I trust you. You're communicating trust. Does that make sense? Okay? When you don't have a plan B after asking me to do something. When you wait for me to ask for your help instead of taking over. You know that sometimes happens. Often when you've been married for some time, there are no boundaries, right? And so your spouse can ask you to do something, and then within 2 seconds, they're already taking over and they're doing it, but their way, right? But there's a healthy boundary that actually boosts people's self-esteem. And that's when you actually say, do you need some help? Is there any way I can help? And then you invite them into your world. Does that make sense? Okay. When you're gracious and non-critical, it's an esteem building. It's an esteem building. Okay. When you make suggestions and not bark commands. You know, there's some spouses, they're very polite. At church, they're very polite. At work, they're very polite. But the way they talk to each other, it's like, phew. It's like how they would speak to a dog, how they would command a dog to get out of the house or to, right? So just watch out for that. Okay, make suggestions, don't bark commands, right? Remember, there's the love-respect cycle. And very often men find it easier to love their wives if they feel respected by their wives. Women find it easier respecting their husbands if they feel loved by their husbands. Does that make sense? Okay? That's why the Bible says, husbands, love your wives. Wives, respect your husbands. Because there's that biblical understanding of the love-respect cycle. If you look at a lot of arguments that take place between spouses, you'll see that the lady often doesn't feel loved, and the guy very often doesn't feel respected. If you master that, if women just figured out, how can I show respect to my husband? And husbands just figured out, how can I show love to my wife? It's amazing how so many things would change. Okay? When you initiate sex from time to time, we'll talk about that a little later, ladies. Okay? It tends to boost the guy's self-esteem. I see a couple of smiles, smirks from the guys. Okay? They're trying to it's like, let me just, I don't want to expose my wife here. All right. But when ladies, they actually say at least 25% of the time try to initiate. Okay? That's what I've read in the research. Okay? And I don't know why they say 25%, but at least 25% of the time, try and be the one who initiates. What does it do? As a guy gets older, as we all are, how many of you guys are getting a bit older? I see that hand. Right? What it does is it reinforces that, you know what, she still finds me attractive. You know what, despite my flab and my back fat and so on, she still finds me desirable. Okay? So I think that's something to just think about. All right? When you quote me when you're speaking to your friends, isn't it nice when you hear your spouse saying, yeah, no, I was just telling them the thing that you said the other day about this and this and this, a certain principle. You feel great, don't you? Both guys and girls. When you trust me with something that you usually like to control, what is it that you usually like to control in the marriage? Is it the finances? Is it the cooking, the food? And hear someone saying like, hey, no, Pastor, hey, I don't want to poison the kids. I can't trust them in the food department. Okay? But what is it that you usually like to control? Just let go a bit and genuinely say, hey, it's fine. You go and, okay, in my case it might be, hey, choose some pictures that you'd like for the house. Okay? When you appreciate my dedication to the family, okay? When you appreciate my hard work. From time to time, my wife will say, now she works hard herself, but from time to time she'll say to me, and it's just an ordinary day, but she'll come and she'll say to me, thanks for working so hard, as I'm about to go somewhere. And I would just think I'm just, going to a client and so on. But that boosts me. As I'm going down the highway, I'm thinking to myself, sure, I enjoyed that conversation where my wife was appreciating how hard I work. It keeps you going. Does that make sense? Don't start crying, guys. Don't feel bad. Okay, those who don't do it. I'm seeing certain looks. Some of the ladies are like, Father, I repent. I repent. Okay, so with each of these, I'm giving you a definition, and then I'm giving you examples, practical examples of what you can do, and then there's the project. Okay? Now, at the end of this talk, we're gonna have a little break, and you have a chance to actually do a project. You can pick one of the 6, okay, that you want to do, right? And then the rest you do once a week. So you literally say, this week we're gonna focus on self-confidence, and I'm gonna be focusing on boosting my wife's self-confidence. My wife might say, I'm gonna be boosting my husband's sense of security, which is one of the other 6. Does that make sense? Okay, but for today, we will do one of them as a project. That's going to be our practical exercise. So the self-confidence project, if you want to do that, make a list of their abilities and good deeds done to date. Okay, if you want to boost your wife's self-esteem or your husband's, make a list of their abilities and good deeds done to date. Communicate creatively how you have benefited from these. Okay? Communicate creatively how you have benefited from these. So I could say to my wife, my love, thank you so much for making sure that we always eat healthy food at home. Okay? That's one of them. There'll be a list of good deeds, right? And then how do I communicate creatively how I've benefited from these? Okay? I could give her a card. I could do something nice and special, saying I really appreciate it. Okay? Purchase a gift to specifically appreciate them for their contribution, right? Ask for their input and listen without controlling the conversation. So those of you who talk a lot, how many of you here generally are big talkers? You talk quite a lot, okay? Yeah. Some people I know. Right? John, you should have looked behind you. As in John Pizze. Your wife's hand was up. But here's the, you can use that. You admit it in front of everyone. When you're having your next discussion. All right? All right. Now, this is the thing. If you're someone who generally talks a lot, okay, make a decision that, you know what? Today I'm just going to keep quiet. And I'm going to ask my spouse more than 2 questions deep for their input. And I'm just going to listen without controlling the conversation. There's subtle ways that people control a conversation. And we'll teach on that another time, but there are very subtle ways that people try and steer someone to say what they want them to say. Just be very careful about that. Okay? Ask them to do something for you that you usually like to be in control of. Ask them to do something for you that you usually like to be in control of. What is that? Right? So just this. What is that? Taking photos. Oh, dishes. All right. Does that make sense? So that's our first pillar, ladies and gentlemen. That's our first pillar, self-efficacy. Do you feel you've got some tools that you can use to boost your spouse's esteem in this area? Okay, can we move to the next one?